So, about a million years ago, I uploaded one of my very first video essays titled, "Why Do Black Girls Watch the Boys?" I'll link the video in the description, but basically, that video was about my internal conflict of enjoying one of my favorite series that pretty much excluded and degraded my image as a black girl. I expressed my opinions and point of view of the show's lack of black girl characters and positive representation, as well as deep-rooted misogynoir showcased in The Boys comic book, and how I felt about it since I'm obviously a fan of the TV show. I have a subsector within my channel where I like to point out and discuss my phenotype's representation in the media I observe. And as you can imagine, most of it is disappointing, humiliating, and negative. In the case of The Boys, prior to season 4, the latest season, black women were both barely present and yet portrayed so negatively. I pointed out how the show had so many black male characters, but the only black girl characters we got was MM's wife, Monique, and daughter Janine, who in comparison were barely in the series. I discussed the negative trope Monique, MM's wife turned ex-wife, portrayed, and while I feel like after her actress changed, her character significantly improved since season 1, I also discussed the comic books version of Monique and Janine, which were truly diabolical. And that's putting it lightly. But like I said, if you want to see that video, links in the description. So yeah, when the spinoff Gen V debuted, I think a lot of people assumed we were getting Black Girl Redemption since Marie is the main character.
You could be the first top-ranked freshman in history.
I think you meant to say first black woman in the 7.
But noticeably, although she is portraying a black girl character, the actress who plays Marie is a biracial or mixed girl. And when it comes to media representation, black girls and biracial girls have each their own images and representation. And it's kind of insulting and lazy to substitute black girls for biracial girls, especially when black girls are noticeably absent. Although this is such a common occurrence in the media. So no, I don't see Gen V's Marie as representation redemption for black girls in the Boys universe. If anything, having a darker skinned mixed girl substitute as a black girl just adds to the erasure of the black girl image in the media, truthfully. If you're a returning subby of mine and familiar with my Black Girl Representation series playlist, you've probably heard me over-explain the importance of making the distinction between black and biracial or mixed girl representation. It is not divisive, it is not about measuring someone's blackness, it's not telling anyone they're not black enough. And no, I'm not attempting to exclude biracial mixed people from the black community, nor identifying with their black side. It's about prioritizing my phenotype's image and acknowledging the bias both society and the media inflicts on black girls through our media representation. If you would like more elaboration on this topic, I will refer you to my overanalyzing black versus beige representation in K-pop video, as well as my overanalyzing That One Moment in Daria video. Links in the description. And I'm not saying that the actress Jazz Sinclair doesn't deserve her role as Marie in Gen V. I just would have personally appreciated it if they were honest and acknowledged her as a biracial mixed girl instead of presenting her with 2 black parents in episode 1 and pretending she's a monoracial black girl. And I'm curious to see who they cast as her sister when we do find her later in the series. I would not be surprised if her sister was also played by a biracial actress. Didn't they do the same thing with Zendaya on Disney Channel 1,000 years ago? And that's part of the reason it's so important to distinguish black girl representation from biracial/mixed girl representation. There's a huge bias against black girls, and we see this in society too. Although both women can be subjected to racism, overall mixed or biracial phenotype, especially when made obvious, is pedestalized over black girl phenotype. It's important to be honest and make the distinction in terms of representation for a variety of reasons that have real-life consequences, especially for black girls. It's a form of gaslighting to pretend that black girls are being represented through mixed girl actresses, especially when black girl characters are typically excluded or portrayed negatively when included. So yeah, I say all that because at the end of the day, Marie wasn't cutting it for me. She wasn't Black Girl Representation Redemption. And for more insight on that topic, watch the videos I mentioned earlier. Links are in the description. Anyways, The Boys season 4 was a really good season in my opinion. The show has always been phenomenal, but season 4 really took it to new heights, especially with the character development and acting from the cast. And the controversy of people just now finding out that The Boys Society is a super accurate parody of our own and getting mad about it made it even better. We got some major development with Ryan that I didn't see coming. Starlight is actually finally likable to me. Before, I thought she was so boring and a typical Mary Sue, but after this season, especially with her power upgrade and focus on her actual personality with flaws and all, I like her character so much more. The reveal with Billy Butcher at the ending was beyond crazy. I did not see all that coming. He is played by such a good actor. Kimiko and Frenchie's stories were kind of boring per usual, and although I liked their contribution to the team, their sideline stories felt like filler. Anthony Starr as Homelander, just wow. This guy, man. In my opinion, his ability to bring so much to this character is up there in the ranks with Heath Ledger's Joker. And that's no exaggeration. This guy is good. And I really hope it isn't true, but I heard he was liking racist hate comments on Twitter where people were making fun of black girls cosplaying Starlight. But if it is true, I guess the man isn't acting after all. Nate from Gossip Girl is also an amazing actor. The Deep is an idiot, but in such a genuinely hilarious way. And I'm really curious to see what happens to Ashley next season. A-Train is getting some undeserved redemption, which I guess. I don't know why, but I feel like he's going to be on a t-shirt soon, if you catch my drift. And I hate the new Black Noir. I mean, he's funny, but I wish they would have stuck with the comic version of him. The Boys does such a good job introducing new characters. They're purposeful and serve a good contribution to the show and overall storyline, even if they don't last long. Firecracker reminds me of so many podcast girls, unfortunately, and I'm super nervous for her next season. This chick is not smart and in way over her head. It's not looking good. And despite being terribly irritating and ignorant, I like what she brought out of Starlight. Also, side note, I love the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel shout out in episode 2. We'll be talking about that series on my channel in the future. It's one of my faves. But of course, the reason we're all here is the introduction of Sister Sage, a new main character in The Boys, and long overdue Black girl representation redemption.
Hi, my name is Susan Hayward. I play Sage. She is billed as the smartest person in the world. And when we find her at the top of season 4, she's done the same thing a little bit. She's dabbled, but she's decided it's not for her. So any kind of relationship with Vought International is the farthest thing from our mind, and we get to watch how that changes. Oh, I was a huge fan of this show. Since season 1, I remember sitting down with my husband and watching that first season, and I pointed to the TV like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I was like, oh, that, I want to do that. And I even said it out loud. I was like, I'd love to be on a show like this. It's so smart and it's so topical. And I did the best I could to watch mostly a lot of people playing chess. I felt like that was the kind of mind, the state of mind that Sage is in all the time. She's looking 55 moves ahead. And if someone goes left instead of right, she's got a plan. So Sage is billed as the smartest person in the world. And for me, that means her brain is super powered. She can take in more information than anybody else in the world. Little details that other people would overlook, she'll take them in and know how different actions can lead to different parallel universes. She's living in kind of all possibilities at the same time and making the best move for her.
I was beyond excited when I saw that the character Sister Sage was added to the cast. As you know, I too really love the TV series The Boys, but I was very conflicted on supporting it since it wasn't really all that inclusive towards my image in a positive way. Seeing Susan Hayward as Sage is a huge W for Black girl representation. And as we're about to see in this video, her character is a great addition to this storyline as well. I don't want to spoil the season or accidentally create another hour-long video, so I'm only going to overanalyze Sister Sage's entrance to the series in episode 1. And if you guys haven't watched The Boys, you're totally missing out. The first time Sage is mentioned is during a meeting with the Seven and Ashley. They are searching for candidates to join their twisted version of the Justice League. Homelander is visibly annoyed, not saying much, other than to flex his dominance over the group by disagreeing with their recommendations to see how fast they change up their opinions to please him. He will be the one to decide who joins the team, and everyone is terrified of challenging him. But other than that, he is scary silent as they click through a few different candidates. When they get to Sister Sage's profile, A-Train immediately starts bashing her. But Homelander, who's been facing away towards the window the entire time, seems interested in the world's smartest person. He even reviews her profile again later on after he walks out of the meeting. For 4 seasons, we've watched Homelander tyrannically terrorize, threaten, and intimidate everyone around him to the point where they are all terrified to disagree, question, and be anything but yes men. And although he desires this kind of fear and submission from everyone, he seems to be irritated by it as well. And so he seeks out Sage. When we first meet her, she's on the toilet reading a book in her apartment when she hears a knock at her door.
I am almost never surprised.
Homelander visits her incognito, and this is the first time we've ever seen him in regular civilian clothes. Sage's apartment is modest and overcrowded with books. To prove her super intelligence, without explanation, Homelander tells her to tell him why he's here.
You're so smart. Show me. Show me.
Based on your public appearances, your stylist is dyeing your hair more often. Used to be every month, now it's every 2.4 weeks. Did she tell you you're going gray, or is she hiding it?
Sage immediately deduces that ultimately Homelander is in fear of his own mortality, pointing out his gray hair and that he is aging, and therefore dealing with an existential midlife crisis. She also points out that since he hasn't pulled her apart by now, that he needs her help. I thought this first scene was really cool and a great introduction to the character. It also reminded me of one of my favorite anime, Death Note. The protagonists of Death Note, like Yagami and L, were both geniuses who throughout the entire series would be able to predict entire plots from their opponents from the most insignificant gestures. It was like watching 3D chess, and that's putting it mildly. If you haven't watched Death Note, you're honestly missing out on one of the greatest anime to ever exist. And hell no, I'm not talking about the live action version. Anyways, Homelander, not surprisingly, gets irritated by Sage's super intelligence. His pride or ego is easily threatened by Sage's directness and honesty, which is no surprise to Sage either. However, Sage seems very cautious. To the outside world, Homelander is like our own Superman or Captain America mixed in one. A powerful hero who is naturally charming, patriotic, and dedicated to protecting the citizens of Earth. He, along with the superhero corporation Vault, has fooled the world completely by hiding his true nature of being deeply narcissistic and sociopathic. He is mentally unstable and often uses his powers for personal gain and lacks empathy. In the boys' universe, the Supes are morally ambiguous and flawed characters. They portray the dark side of fame, power, and corporate influence. The members of the Seven wear masks of traditional heroism. To the world, they look like heroes dedicated their lives to protecting the people, but in reality, these heroes are severely psychotic, dangerous, and selfish, with a superiority complex over humans, viewing their lives as insignificant. But the masses are totally unaware. And ironically, non-Supe humans have a hand in it too, using the Supes to create a corporate industry centered on economic gain and government control. But most civilians are unaware of all this. We can hear by the words Sage uses to describe non-Supes as mouth breathers that she too has a superiority complex over humans. And what I like most about her reveal is that she's flawed and morally gray and seems to align with Homelander instantly. Okay, vague semi-spoiler. We do get some context into Sage's background story later in the season. She had someone in her life that she cared about that was sick. And because she's a super genius, Sage discovered a cure for the illness. Due to the combination of being a little girl and the corruption in the healthcare industry, she was ultimately dismissed, which resulted in the loss of someone she loved. And this event contributed to her current state of vengefulness, and like Homelander, she desires to manipulate and rebuild society too. During their first meeting in her apartment, Homelander tells Sage that he seeks her advice. Homelander admits that although he once desired fear and servitude from everyone, now that he has it, he sees how meaningless it all is and isn't happy. He blames humans for the bulk of it, which is interesting to me because if he were more humane, he probably would be happier. Homelander says that humans are insignificant and toys for his amusement, and he doesn't like nor understand how yet they control everything. Realizing that he is aging and is not immortal, he is also concerned that he won't be able to leave a legacy for his son Ryan, who he sees more as an extension of himself than an individual. So he wants to know how Sage would do it, how she would go about getting him what he wants. In response, Sage brings up Greece and how all democracies are destined to fail ultimately because humans are flawed, or in her words, stupid. Sage points out that Homelander wants the people to worship him, which he does, so he can't get rid of them completely. She encourages him to let the people tear themselves apart, which will give him control to push them in that direction. And when everything has gone to hell, he can be the one who swoops in and saves them all, which would also please the narcissist in him. We can tell with his creepy faint smile that Homelander is excited by this plan. Before he leaves, he invites Sage to join the Seven. Like I said, for those who don't know, the Seven is the boys' equivalent to the Justice League or the Avengers. Sage declines immediately. She wants to work behind the scenes. She doesn't like her superhero image. She thinks it's racist, which is funny because when I first saw her costume and heard her name, I thought the same thing. It was obviously a play on the earthy, soulful black girl archetype, and she refers to the civilians who idolize heroes as clapping seals. After demeaning her life a little bit, Homelander offers Sage an opportunity never presented to her before. Homelander exploits her own desires and offers her a chance to put some of her theories into practice on a global scale. And we can see by Sage's twisted expression, she's practically salivating, that she too has an uncanny, unhinged desire to use her superintelligence in a corrupt way as well. I thought this first scene was a great introduction to this character. I was really excited to have a black girl soup, but I'm even more excited to see that she's leaning towards the supervillain side. And I was really excited to see Sage teaming up with Homelander. Typically, when TV shows add a black girl character, they don't really utilize her except as something to push the main character's story along, and not for long. She'll usually fade into the background and become unimportant. This setup gives me the impression and hope that Sage will be another power player in the boys' universe by aligning her with the series' main and most powerful antagonist, Homelander. And as for her appearance, I really appreciate that she is a black girl who presents as a black girl. Normally in most TV shows, if a black character is added, her image will be very ambiguous. Unlike the majority of black male characters who are cast by unambiguous dark-skinned actors, black girls, when they're not being portrayed by mixed or biracial girls, will still usually be lighter complexion or have somewhat vague black girl features. Unless the role is generally stereotypical and negative, that's when you do see more women and girls with Sages in my phenotype. So it is very refreshing to see Sister Sage as a dark-skinned black woman with black girl features and black girl hair. That's true representation. In the latter half of episode 1, we see Sage again through the eyes of the boys, who are doing some kind of reconnaissance. They see Sage meet with 3 men who we later find out are Homelander supporters who think they are going to an exclusive Homelander meet and greet. She brings them to a room with 7 decorations, snacks, and 7 members A-Train, The Deep, and Black Noir. The men are eagerly awaiting their chance to meet Homelander. A-Train is surprised by Sage and her sudden appearance, and Sage jabs back at him for her reason of being there, which, although vague, lets him know that she's in cahoots with Homelander. She keeps it ambiguous with what's going on as far as the 3 men, who are just grateful for a chance to meet their idol. But this is the start of Sage's plan. When Homelander arrives, he thanks the men for their support, and then in front of everyone instructs A-Train, The Deep, and Black Noir to, well...
I want you to take these bats and beat these gentlemen to death.
After the massacre, Homelander goes to court. He's actually on trial for lasering a protester at one of his rallies in broad daylight. There are 2 opposing groups screaming at each other outside of the courtroom. On one side, we have the Homelander supporters, who those of us in the USA can quickly identify as a parody of real-life right-wing. And in yellow, on the other side, are the Starlighters, who are a representation of the liberal side. Like I mentioned earlier, throughout the show, they have mirrored America quite accurately. It's actually kind of scary. After Homelander is found not guilty, Sage, dressed up as a Starlighter, incites a violent riot amongst the 2 crowds and chaos erupts.
special people. Stop.
While everyone is brawling, Sage instructs A-Train to drop off the battered bodies of the 3 men from the Homelander meet and greet earlier, right in the middle of the mob. Notably, those men are all dressed up in Homelander apparel, and so this frames the Starlighters as murderers, which, as Sage plotted earlier, fuels the Homelander supporters' fear-mongering and hatred towards the other side, causing more division amongst the people. And so it begins, and this is only the introduction of Sage's contribution to the chaos. For the rest of the 4th season, we see Sister Sage use her super intelligence to skillfully manipulate and create tension among the other characters. She starts influencing the Deep to stand up to Ashley, completely changing their power dynamic, which ultimately leads to Ashley making a crazy decision by the end of the season. And we even see her get into Newman's head, which is really interesting. Like Homelander, she uses her influence and charisma to wield power in various ways. Unlike Homelander, she has no super strength to fall back on, only her mind, which only makes her involvement super risky. I appreciate how her presence demonstrates how organizations can exploit the cult of celebrity surrounding superheroes and the show's satirical take on heroism. And although Sage immediately shows loyalty to Homelander after presenting him a version of her plan for world domination, her actions behind her own agenda adds layers to the storyline and really keeps me guessing about her true intentions. I just wish we were given even more hints of her manipulating and pulling multiple strings simultaneously behind the scenes, or got more time with her in general, so that when her schemes did come to fruition, those scenes would be way more powerful. You know, like Death Note? Because with a character like this, I expect the rug to not just be pulled from underneath me, but yanked hard. However, her method of unwinding after a stressful day was something I did not see coming, and to this day, I cannot bring myself to watch. I always skip those scenes. Sage is the world's smartest person, so chamomile tea isn't going to cut it. She has to perform more extreme techniques to achieve relaxation, which is crazy. The only critique I have is that I wish some of her plots and motivations were better written and executed. I heard another YouTuber say in their commentary of her character, and I'm pretty sure it was Avatar Adrian who said this, that it is difficult writing super intelligent characters because they can only be as smart as the people who write them. And that's totally true, no shade. Overall, Sister Sage enhances the storyline, and as for Black girl representation in The Boys, I feel like her character was long overdue. Like I mentioned in my previous video, our image in the show and the comic was terrible, to say the least. And I know The Boys is a diabolical show and all the characters are terrible, but the way Black girls were treated in this universe, primarily in the comic, was very degrading and racist. And despite having a plethora of Black male main characters, as well as a somewhat diverse cast, I couldn't help but notice the exclusion towards Black girls. Sister Sage was really the Black girl representation redemption that I wanted. So, let me know in the comments, what were your impressions of Sister Sage in Season 4? What did you guys think about Season 4 as a whole, and what are your predictions for the future of the show? I'm excited to see what's to come. The Boys was definitely one of my favorite TV shows of 2024. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you would like to view more videos discussing these topics, please check out my Black girl representation playlist. And leave some recommendations of other TV shows I should overanalyze or that you just recommend watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!